Hey Collective, and welcome back to the channel. I just wanted to jump on here real quick. As some of you may know, I started a day job while I wait to get my whole little program going off the ground. And so I am doing double duty at the moment. So I pulled my hair back, took off the suit, and decided to just get on here real quick and talk about a download I got last night, I believe it was. And it has to do with balancing, having to balance a high vibrational living situation in a lower vibrational environment, and how that can be a little straining on us as souls. And so what basically the download was that when it comes to being high vibrational, one of the things that the higher realms are finding, and especially the divine universe, is that we tend to put ourselves into undue stressful situations where we take on the burden of trying to be perfect, or trying to live in a way that makes us almost saintly, something that is really almost impossible to do, because if you live in the 3D experience, you are still having to encounter the world at large and the things that are going on. You just have to find a way to not let it affect you and not let it bring you down, but that doesn't mean you are supposed to stop engaging it. So what they're finding is a disconnect where people are either completely disregarding the world around them and just kind of going, fuck it, I'm just going to take care of me, forgetting this is a collective venture, and as leaders, something that we shouldn't probably do on a regular basis, because though being selfish in some situations where you have given too much is acceptable, not giving enough when you have enough is a sign of being ungrateful. And so the divine just wanted me to kind of parlay that and remind everyone that you are not meant to be perfect. You are here to learn. And so as high vibrational people, the one thing that you have to now learn is how to live as a high vibrational being in a lower vibrational environment. And how do you do that other than actually having to put in the effort to you yourself change and alchemize the energy around you, which means you have to engage it. So as I continue to work with these leaders, both in my day job and in my actual, what I'm focusing my energy on with the turquoise leadership and the show about legacy, I'm supposed to remind everyone that as I do that, that is part of what we're here to do, is not just master our own specialty, but to actually do something that brings the world together and unite us. And so one of the things that they specifically told me to in the download was remind people that you have to purge. And what they meant by that is it was a dream where I was in the movie The Purge, and they were trying to kill me, and of course that usually makes me laugh because I have a sick sense of humor. But essentially what it was implying was you have to let go of all of the negative feelings and old mindsets and things like that. And so if you live in a very, very high vibrational environment, or if you put out a big vibration, especially a high one, on a regular basis, if you don't purge it, you don't change it, you don't let loose of the karma, you don't get rid of all of, I don't know why I'm putting my comb in front of you, but hi. It's been a long day. But you don't let go of that, because if you keep it pent up and you don't say it and you try to be perfect and you strain yourself with it, then at some point you blow up, and it's kind of like Mount St. Helen. When that blows, it's going to be disastrous, right? So what the divine wants all of us to remember is that we still reside in a third dimensional existence. And though many of us are running around going, where's the spaceship, if you believe in that? When is it coming to get us so I can get the fuck out of Dodge, because these people are nuts? And that's so high vibrational for how we truly probably would express it. But just see my point. So, and what we're doing now is we're like trying to escape what we're in, forgetting that in order to truly master your environment, you have to be able to navigate it and engage it and keep your vibration high, because then you create a ripple effect that makes other people's vibrations move upwards. And so you will need to release the tension at some point. So what I personally, and I don't know why they're asking me to share this with you, but what I personally do is once every 2 to 3 months, probably about every 2 months, I get my cotton pony day, where I just tell the universe, I'm going to be a fucking bitch today. I'm just going to fucking tell you right now, I'm going to bitch, I'm going to moan, I'm going to complain. Don't use it against me. I need to let go of whatever this negativity is. Because what it does is that it completely changed my negative mindset, and it completely got me away from victimization. It got me away from feeling the strain of trying to be perfect all the time. Because though I am a messenger of the divine, that doesn't mean that I'm still not experiencing the ups and lows and peaks and valleys that we all are. And so it was very important for them to remind me, to tell you all, that no matter how high vibrational you are, if you don't purge your energy, if you don't allow the bad moments to exist, then what ends up happening is you will completely completely come across something that will tank you, and then you really run into danger. As many of you know that are on the ascension path, one of the things that we are very aware of is the fact that there are a lot of things that are about to happen to the collective, and it will awaken different, like mass amounts of them at different points through different disasters or different scenarios or economic downturns and so forth. And so as these things start to really play out, our task is to be able to maintain and to actually balance the energies around us. And the only way to do that is if we actually acknowledge our emotional landscape. And so though I know that a lot of us are trying to be really like boss about it, and trying to maintain all of the have so many things in the fires all at once, and we're trying to make the recipe just right so that everybody can enjoy the feast of what's to come on the bonus side. We still have to walk through the valley of the shadow of death. We still have to go through the shadow side. We still have to engage the negative sides of ourselves, of our neighbors, of our friends, of our colleagues, and figure out if we want to stay in those locations, if we want to move on, which is one of the things that I struggle with every now and then. But what we cannot do is completely just disengage from what's going on. And so the only way to truly do that is just be true to your emotions. If you are someone who is really high vibrational and you're trying to master your environment and try to stay a high vibrational person all the time, you can't do that if you don't release it as it happens. And so they're just reminding me to remind you all that no matter what's going on, no matter what you're trying to do, the most effective leaders have a point of release. They don't keep it inside the entire time. They go to a therapist, or they go to the spiritual leader, or they go to a guru, or they go to YouTube and they look at videos, or that's one of the things about the show that I'm trying to get on, is that it's a really great portal, I should say, for people to understand what happens in the negativity and watch people who turned it around and lifted themselves up and really doing great things. There's a really great avenue right now in that type of idea, where we would take really powerful people who have amassed a lot of really great things in the 3D experience, who now want to be together as far as a collective venture, as far as spiritual leadership, and do even better things in a group dynamic for the world. And that could be something as simple as there are billionaires that have billions of dollars in our world that in conjunction with other millionaires and billionaires could literally take third world nations and make them second world war nations or first world war nations. They could end all sorts of things. They could end the problems with food. They could help Africa. They could end all sorts of research for autism. We could really find out about vaccinations. We could find all that stuff out. And all it takes is just someone to remind us that we really do have an opportunity here. But we can't do that if everyone spends their time worried about reputation, or worried about what people will say, or listening to their friends who tell them how to live their lives and then get mad at them. And there's all of this stuff that happens when we don't ourselves just release the toxins. And so they just wanted me to remind you, and they wanted me to give you the perfect example, which was, I believe it was like a week and a half ago. I was out in Cotton Pony, man. I was not having it. I was being a bitch, and what was happening was I was stressing myself up, thinking that if I was honest and released what I was really thinking or what I was truly feeling, because there are things that happen. It was during the period where they released information about the for children, and I fucking slipped down. I got really upset about it, but I kept it to myself, and I was bottling it up. So when the day came and I finally was like, that's it, I'm going to have to let this out, and I just kind of let the universe have it. What I ended up not unknowingly doing is that the universe became concerned that I wasn't able to handle it, because I was keeping it to myself, but it was because of the fact that I wouldn't release it. And there was a push for me to be honest, and it was the final purge that I needed to move on and to kind of release that karmic cycle. And so if I would have kept going and bottling it up and not having that day, I could never have been an effective leader in what the divine has planned for me. And that's the point I'm trying to make here, is if you don't purge it, then what ends up happening is that the universe can't take you seriously, because it doesn't understand. No one here is a robot. Everybody here has emotions. So if the emotions don't exist, then you look fake. And so the universe was really actually pleased that I had that day where I was like, I'm going to fucking let you do it. I'm just going to let it all out. Because it reminded them that I am active, and that I'm actually doing the work, but that I'm still human, and that I'm still able to lead people. Because if you completely disconnect as a leader from the troops or from the people that you're dealing with, you're going to show signs that they can't relate to you. They won't even be able to understand what you're saying. And so it validated that I was still going through it, and that I was actually engaging. I wasn't just like a glib student, or I just wasn't ignoring my life. I just was at a place where I was just being consistently at a high vibration, but I was still neglecting the fact that if I didn't purge it, it would blow up, and that would be a problem. So the point is for all of us to remember that, because when it's all said and done, one of the things that the divine pointed out to me in particular was when you're leading people through dark periods in your life, one of the things that you still need to do is stay grounded. And one of the things that they do in the divine universe is that if they feel like you are just kind of floating and you're not attached to the world, they're going to ground you. And so if you're super high vibrational, the danger is that they will ground you in a very dramatic tower moment type of situation to make you react. And so the more that you deny the reaction, the more you become distrusted by the universe, because no one should live in a glass house where they feel like they can't even say the truth of things, because how can the divine universe trust you if you never release what's truly going on? It is always going to be like a salesman approach, right? They're always going to feel like you're trying to sell them something, like you're trying to make believe that you're happy all the time, and you become more susceptible to other people's comments and so forth. And so they wanted me to remind us that an effective leader has to stay grounded. So if you continuously avoid your emotions, and if you continuously try to act like that things aren't affecting you, then they will make sure that something happens, because otherwise they will never trust us. And so as we build the trust with them, I just want you guys to remember all of that, because it got to a point the other day where I had to say something, because if I didn't, I was going to implode. It made me become even more stressed and more vicious onto myself, because I was like, I'm such a pussy, oh my god, blah blah blah, and like, why am I having this reaction? I'm just a failure. And it sent me down a rabbit hole for like 2 hours. The divine doesn't let me go more than 2 hours before he snaps my ass out of it. But I put so much pressure on myself that even though it was a natural reaction and that it was good that I was purging, I took it like I had just tanked everything that I'd done, and I thought I had thrown my entire divine universe experience away, and that I was a big failure over the fact that I had 2 hours where I just needed to purge it. And the divine really wanted me to share that with you guys, because I was putting so much pressure on my own life that I wasn't allowing myself to grow. I was so stuck in a box that I was becoming like the divine universe almost was like, well, how can anybody be this high vibrational all the time? And so I started getting more and more tested, and I got tested and tested and tested and tested and tested and tested and tested, which is great if you're trying to pass an exam. But if you're trying to lead people, or you're trying to engage people in a brotherly way that unites the planet, if you come across like you are not connected to the world, if you don't have a reaction, then they don't really believe you. And so the divine was trying to engage me. And so what it turned out being, as the divine found out, is it wasn't that I wasn't acknowledging it, is that I had just gotten to a point where I just was dead in that spot. Like, not dead inside, but that feeling when you press a button over and over and over and over again on someone until finally they stop reacting. With everything I've been through, I just stopped reacting. But what I was doing, what was stressing me out, and what they were interpreting or what they were getting from me, was the fact that I was putting so much stress on myself to be perfect. And not like trying to be perfect, but just I wasn't allowing anything to bother me. And so I was becoming disconnected. And so that would be ineffective leadership. And so then finally, when I did release it, that was the concern. And it was the big lesson that I learned this week. Well, actually, it was like 2 days ago. Was the fact that when I finally released it, my emotional landscape came in and said, you just fucked everything up. You just fucked everything you worked for is gone. And the divine universe is doing everything it can to go, what the fuck are you, like, you know what I mean? And because I was being so hard on myself, and so I finally dropped the burden. So as we go through these ascension type things, and as the collective changes, and we become more unified, and we become more in alignment with what they want of us, and they want us to be more accountable for our actions and so forth, they wanted me to really stop what I was doing tonight and just touch base with you all and say, no matter what you're going through, no matter how high vibrational you are, if you don't purge, then they don't trust us, because you need to trust yourself. And what the concern was, when I found out later, when the divine figured out what the issue was, because I was having a strange thing where I was like, I was being tested every day on really stuff that I probably should have reacted to, but I was just so like, I was disinterested. I'd become so disconnected by it. Like, I was just like, okay. Like drama, like, okay. And that's not an effective leader, so they had to get me back into the game, so to speak. And so what they did is when I when I finally popped, I could just feel the energy of something grander than myself just pushing my buttons over and over again, like back to back to back to back to back. And finally, I woke up the next morning and I was like, that's it, I've had it. Fuck this shit. And I just kind of let it out. And so, but that wasn't the problem. It was a relief, right, to the universe and to myself. They're like, okay, he's good, he's solid. But what happened was, then my brain spiraled for about 2 hours because I let it. That's part of the purge. I had to get rid of that negative part of my mindset, and it was literally me beating the shit out of myself. Oh, you fucked everything up. There goes everything you've been working for. You're never going to reach your goals. Blah blah blah. And it wasn't because it was it wasn't even my natural rhythm. It was because I had bottled it up for so long that as a leader, I just started to feel like I could never do anything wrong, and so I became even more ineffective. So ever since that has happened, I've been hunky fucking dory. Let me just tell you, happy as can be. Even with the stress of the new job and all of the challenges with that, I'm just looking at all of it like it's easy breezy. And I actually feel it. And for the first time in a minute, like about a month, the universe actually believes me because I was able to purge the negativity and I was able to actually acknowledge where my emotions were at. So I have no problem, as you guys know, leading by example. So I was just supposed to go on here and share with you guys a story so that you understood we're not perfect. We're not meant to be perfect. The only thing perfect is the divine plan. And if that was perfect all the way, we wouldn't have to be going through these ascensions and this collective shift. So understand that as the divine God, Allah, the Messiah, whatever you call it, source, a great architect as I call it, whatever you call it, as it shifts its way that it wants us to live because it thinks we can do better, because we know better, and it wants more for us, understand that means that we're going to have to be open to purge anything that's left over from the past. And you can't do that if you're not connected and grounded. So next time you feel yourself starting to feel like you're just bored and you're just not engaged with life anymore, understand that we are being removed for redundant, so don't become redundant. Ensure that you're always processing information, ensure that you're acknowledging your truth, and even though, we're high vibrational, so literally no matter what they did, for at least 3 months I didn't have like a reaction because it just wasn't there. But towards the end of that third month, this past week, they could tell that I was starting to get edgy, and they were like, well, some of this stuff should piss him off, but it's not. You see what I'm saying? So it wasn't like I was being fake to myself. I had just become disenfranchised with it because I was just tired of dealing with low vibrational people. So when you're high vibrational, understand that we can't escape it. None of the leadership right now is ready to start building these communities that are based for us. They're not willing to actually engage people who have been heartbroken or gone through troubles and struggles and put that on TV in a way that is uplifting yet, because everybody's still dealing with the 3D experience. So if no one's actively doing that yet, then we still have to live in this environment. So no matter how wealthy you are, no matter how well you're doing in life, you still have to be present. And the only way to be present is to truly let that shit go. So that's what they wanted me to tell you. I don't know why it had to be so in-depth, but I think it had to do with just the fact that wherever we're all going right now and whatever is about to happen, because whatever it is big. Like, I can tell that I'm on a big shift. All I know is I just finished a massive karmic cycle, and it was really, really hard, and that there's something ahead of me that I can't see yet. But that takes faith and hope, and that's the one thing I've always had. But they wanted me to remind you, high vibrational people, you still have to engage the world around you. To disconnect and become like celibate is an option if you want to be a monk or you want to be like a spiritual leader in that way. But then you're denying yourself from having it all. And we're at a place right now where some of us are about to be handed everything we ever wanted, however it comes to us. I still have a dream. My dream is still to find a mate that is very, very all about the people, that is very much like the Michael of the archangels, and because I'm more the Gabriel of the archangels, so people who do things for society. That's why I like Anderson Cooper so much, and beside the eyes and stuff, it has to do with integrity and the honesty and the humility that comes with that, and the ability to stand for the people and really go for things. I still find that to be my dream partner, and as I find whatever way that plays out, I also still want to do the show, and I still want to have my own thing, and I want to keep my own identity. But you can't do all of that if you're not facing those emotional parts of you. And so just as we go through this, understand, guys, that we are ascending, and part of the ascension is you have to overcome all of your shadow nature. And though we all want to think that we don't have a shadow nature, I don't care how fucking big you are in the spiritual community, everyone has bad days. Now, you should have them less and less and less. I mean, it takes me 3 months to have one bad day. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't strain me, because there's no harsher critic to us than ourselves. And so if you don't release it when you need to and kind of engage whatever you believe, angels, archangels, friends, spiritual gurus, whatever, if you don't actively engage a person in person, then sometimes you forget that you're still living in an experience where the task is to lead people through the shadow side and to lead the collective to unity. But you can't do that if we haven't become whole ourselves. So purge anything that you need when you need to. If you want, do what I did. They wanted me specifically to point that out, where I do give myself a day. It used to be when I first started, I would have to purge once, I think it was once a week, because I was in a really negative mindset. I think I was more realistic, but I was more realistic in the 3D experience. I hadn't really gotten into the 5D. Fifth dimension spiritual terms. But then after that it became a month. Then I would go for about I'd say about a month and like 2 weeks was the longest I went. And then ever since I moved to California and went through the whole spiritual journey and all of that stuff, and the homeless plight and all that stuff, and built my life back up again, it's now every like 3 months or so. And then, but the thing is, like, it's still new, and so just know that you have to purge. Don't keep it in, because the universe wants to give you everything you want, but if you don't know how to handle your emotions and bounce back, then what kind of a leader can you be? Anyway, that's it for me, guys. I'm just jumping on here real quick to say that. I hope you guys are having a great night. I'm going to try to post at least one more really powerful video on Altruistic channel, because this one's going to be on Altruistic channel's Arevalo, but I'm doing double duty right now between the day job and learning all that, just so that I can pay my bills and so forth, and kind of go that route until the other part is ready, because the other part, my dream is still to meet my partner and to build it together. We don't have to do it that way. I can do it all by myself. That's what the day job is helping me do. But it would still be nice to have someone like a Michael to my Gabriel, and to build something that's really spiritual, and it's something between religion and politics, and it brings it to the world in a way that's very creative, and something that's very, very, that helps the children of God. I'm here to help the children specifically, but everyone is considered a child of God, and so my task is to do something that unites that path. But I just wanted to get on there and just say that even though I'm doing double duty, I'm still going to do the videos. I'm just probably going to split it, 2 for this channel for now, for this week at least during training, and then 2 on the Altruistic channel. So keep an eye out for those 4. As always, guys, if you want to work together or do anything like that, just send me a text. I'm always available to answer you back. And I'm still dedicated to my mission and also to the show. I just have to do the day job stuff until everything starts to pick up. So purge, let go of all of it. Don't keep shit to yourself that you don't need to keep to yourself. There's a reason why the divine will push your buttons so that someday you do end up where you don't react. But it doesn't mean, no reaction doesn't mean disconnect from life. You still are here to lead the collective and to unite us in brotherhood and sisterhood. That's it, guys. Bye.